want to dance around, and I want to do the classic like Friday thing and be like, it's Friday, you know what I mean? Saturday, Sunday. But I don't want to do that because it's not a very good Friday. I'll be honest with you. I even felt weird about playing the intro music as I normally do, because right now, as we are speaking, the IDF has cut off all comms on the ground in Gaza and is most likely moving its ground troops into Gaza as well. I am going to try my very best to get you live updates from the ground. I mean, we have very little information. This is the only thing we have. Here's the Gaza City skyline. That buzzing that you're hearing is drones that are constantly above the city. CNN is on the ground from Israel's side. We can get some information on that front right now. But
I think that just reinforces what the IDF have been warning the citizens here to be careful about, to stay close to their shelters, and it's indicative of the fact that the tempo of operations here is perhaps picking up. We've seen as well a couple of flares fired in the sky towards Gaza. We've seen those over recent nights, but again, you would expect flares to be fired close to or around troops in the field who want to get better visibility on what's the ground in front of them. And it's illumination for troops in the field to see where the danger is, where the enemy may be hiding, Anderson.
Yeah, Nick, I think it's important in situations like this to point out what we do not know. We heard from Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the IDF, a short time ago, saying that the ground operation in Gaza is expanding. We do not know to what extent is it expanding. As Nick said, flares over Gaza, in a certain part of Gaza, would perhaps indicate troops on the ground or movement on the ground in armored vehicles and tanks. We have seen over the last day or two some operations, very limited incursions to, according to the IDF, eliminate any munitions that might be in border areas, and also any reconnaissance posts, and to sort of soften the ground and level the ground for the next phase. General Wesley Clark is also joining us. General Clark, as you see those flares being fired into the air over parts of Gaza and what you're hearing from the IDF, what do you make of what's going on?
I think what we have here is what we would call a reconnaissance in force, Anderson. That is to say, it's a large force. It's going in. It's looking to probe the enemy's defenses, find out his reaction, collect intelligence, maybe take prisoners, maybe get into the tunnel complex, and it may or may not stay in. If they find that this is advantageous,
no, man. If yesterday's operations, are yesterday the IDF sent in a tank column. Okay, they sent in a fucking tank column and basically busted through. Have you known the news about Motaz is asking for an international protection in his IG? I did not see that, but I'm not shocked by that, considering the Israeli occupying forces' proclivity to assassinate journalists, 22 so far, and their family members if they don't assassinate the journalists directly. It's understandable that journalists in Gaza, the remaining ones who haven't been fucking killed, would want some level of assurance or international protection. I am talking to journalists who have contacts on the ground in Gaza behind the scenes, and they are telling me that their WhatsApp messages are not going through, that they have no way of communicating with people that are currently on the ground. Okay? The internet is down. Comms are down. There's no information out of Gaza. It's just, this is done deliberately. They've shut off all matter of telecommunications coming out of Gaza, specifically so you don't know what is going on the ground. It's very difficult to get information right now. Isn't this Hasan covering breaking news? Yes, this is me covering breaking news. I love that that is what your main point of contention here is. It's not that like yeah, if it's a fucking mass shooting going on, I don't cover it. It's a little bit different when like an active ethnic cleansing campaign is occurring and I'm covering breaking news by giving you fucking CNN coverage on it. Are you that stupid that your immediate goal in this circumstance as a 15-month subscriber who's been in here for a year is like trying to win a fucking semantics argument? I've said it already. Like, I don't understand. There's obviously verifiable information from on the ground, okay? I'm not giving you casualty numbers right now that I just made up or some shit. It's ridiculous to be this fucking petty. I also told you I am talking to journalists with contacts on the fucking ground, okay? Who are saying that their communications are completely shut off. Like, they cannot get a single fucking piece of information from their contacts. When I talk about shit like this, I'm not talking out of my fucking ass, okay? If your goal is to try and derail me here and try to, like, I don't know, try to create some confusion on my coverage, if that's your main point of contention here, I don't know what to fucking tell you, okay? Here, let's go to Al Jazeera.
Their central command, the place where they make the big decisions, i.e. the headquarters of Hamas. And as you heard earlier from the hospital, they're saying that there's 60,000 people there. Well, you know, it's impossible to evacuate a hospital of that size that is the biggest and really probably one of the last remaining that can offer services to any of those Palestinians, especially those that took refuge. And here there's a change in what we're seeing on the ground. It's not clear from what the army said whether that's going to be the next step. They have been saying that they're preparing for the next phase. He also said, we call on residents of Gaza City to move south. Again, that's something we've been hearing often, that they plan to go into the north. They have sent foot soldiers. Very small groups have entered from time to time, potentially, possibly testing Hamas to see what kind of confrontation they're going to meet if they go in on the ground. Rob, Israel has an incredibly strong air force from above. It's got US reinforcement that's providing a lot of those bombs that are being used, that are being dropped on Gaza. So we know that militarily it is strong because of the amount of aid. The biggest, largest amount of aid that the US provides is to Israel. Going in on foot is a completely different story, and certainly Hamas has this underground network of tunnels that Israel, despite surveillance, it seemed wasn't fully across. And the proof is in the fact that that attack happened on October the 7th and took it completely by surprise. I will say...
the reports that... See, this is why I cover fucking breaking news sometimes, okay? This is one thing that I do all the time. Here's a good example. There are reports Israel's going to use nerve gas. No. Israel does violate international law by utilizing white phosphorus, for example. This is verified information from the Human Rights Watch. I wait when stuff like that comes out, I wait until there's a third-party verification. But no, the idea that they are going to be using nerve gas, American nerve gas especially, is wrong, is completely incorrect. That is a Middle East Eye coverage that you read that you thought was 100% true. It's not. They already have incredibly evil methods of mass murder that they're utilizing. They do not have to use. You look at the bombs that are exploding right now on the Gaza skyline. There's a reason why that skyline is fucking completely dark. These are all residential neighborhoods. Why are they completely dark? Because there's no fuel, because there's no electricity. Israel has shut off their fuel and electricity for the past 20 fucking days now. Israel has shut off their food for the past 20 days. Israel has shut off their water for the past 20 days. Okay?
In 1948 couldn't return, and still the Palestinian generations that came after that are still not able to return.
Sarah Kara talking to us in occupied East Jerusalem. Sarah, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Charles Stratford, who's in Ramallah for us for the latest there. We're focusing on Gaza at the moment, but of course a lot has been happening in the West Bank over the last couple of weeks. Talk us through what the latest is, Charlie.
Their incursion is from the northern side, okay?
That's right, Rob.
They're entering near the northern side here. This is according to the Clash report. Israeli sources citing Palestinian reports claim IDF tanks have started to enter the east of Beit Hanun in the north of the Gaza Strip. This is from literally right now, okay?
In that raid. Of course, the Israelis don't go into these places and not come under fire themselves. We know that there are a lot of armed Palestinians in some of these areas as well. They call themselves the armed resistance, but 3 Palestinians killed there and at least 8 wounded, including 1 journalist. There were also clashes in various other places across the West Bank today. These are clashes that basically started as a result of youths throwing stones. That's a normal kind of Friday event, occurrence across the occupied Palestinian territory here. But of course, in the context of the war, things are a lot more difficult, a lot harsher. And according to the Palestinian Red Crescent, at least 71 people were wounded, 27 of them wounded by live fire. The Israeli soldiers seemingly increasingly using live ammunition. Perhaps not unsurprising when we have heard in the last couple of days from the top Israeli commander in charge of operations here in the occupied West Bank, saying that the gloves were off now and that there would be a continuation of, in his words, raids to break terrorist nests. There have also been some demonstrations, quite a lot of demonstrations across the occupied West Bank today. Here in Ramallah, also in Hebron, and one that's south of Nablus. Perhaps safe to say that smaller than expected, and it's being speculated one of the reasons why is because of the increasing amount of Israeli military roadblocks peppering the road systems across the occupied territories here. You know, it's been bad for years, but again, as a result of the war, movement is a lot more restricted than it has been in previous times. And another reason is basically because people are afraid. People are scared to go out and protest, to demonstrate, whether in support of the people in Gaza or whether it be.
I'm glad that they have footage on the Shifa Hospital right now. I'm glad that they have cameras on the Shifa Hospital right now, because that's a genuine fear that I have. The IDF has called on the citizens of Gaza, the people of Gaza, to move south. Not that they're not going to bomb the southern positions. They have been, and they have consistently bombed civilian targets in southern positions this past week and even before. However, my major fear is the Shifa Hospital. Why am I saying this? Well, because the IDF and even Benjamin Netanyahu released their like stupid ass, incredibly idiotic propaganda point, saying like, oh, under the Shifa Hospital is the Hamas headquarters. Now, this has been a rumor for a very long time, except the problem is you can't fucking bomb a goddamn hospital because you consider it to be the headquarters of Hamas underneath it. Now, obviously, Hamas does have a extensive tunnel network, okay? They have an extensive tunnel network. They do. There's no audio on this, but I don't know why, but here it is. Hamas/ISIS is sick, says Benjamin Netanyahu. They turn hospitals into headquarters for their terror. We just released intelligence proving it. Here it is. The intelligence that they fucking prove is just an illustration. Intelligence-based illustration video regarding Hamas's use of the Shifa Hospital, both above. It's like all of their information is like this. Like every time they fucking post something like this, it's legitimately terrifying, because guess what? I think it's a target that they're trying to justify before they fucking bomb it. That's what I'm afraid of. Now, obviously, we've seen this before. If you remember, here it is. Where's that famous the famous image? Does anyone have that famous image in the Al-Qaeda tunnel structure? Oh, here it is. Here it is. I mean, this image is the same as this image, except it's worse. There's bin Laden's mountain fortress. The complex of caves at Tora Bora is carved 1,150 feet into a 13,000 feet mountain and can accommodate up to 1,000 people. Now, let me explain something to you, okay? The difference is the fucking Tora Bora tunnel structure is inside of a goddamn mountain. It's not sitting on top of a hospital, okay? Obviously, this was completely made up and grossly exaggerated, okay? It's just fucking fan fiction. And the same exists for this. Okay, like what are they? They got a conference room in here. They have a conference room in the fucking inside of the a tunnel structure under the hospital. It's fucking ridiculous. Ultimately, the difference is you fucking toss a Moab in here. Okay, it's one thing. It's a goddamn mountain. You do the same for the Shifa Hospital. You got surgeons, nurses, doctors, patients, babies, and incubators on top of this fucking supposed Hamas underground complex. That's why it is terrifying. That's why it's terrifying that they fucking drop this propaganda. Normally, in a situation like that, when Israel lies about a thing like this, you're like, oh fuck, they might bomb this place now. I feel like this is a pre-justification. Doctors Without Borders is also stationed at Shifa. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It does not matter because, one, Western forces have blown up Doctors Without Borders hospitals before. Look up Kunduz and Obama. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they've already blown up mainstream media positions. The Israeli government exploded a residential and business complex that housed the Associated Press office in Gaza, okay? The Associated Press. Like, we're not just talking about Al Jazeera. They've been murdering a shit ton of Palestinian journalists, okay? I believe 22, and even their family members, as a matter of fact. However, they've also blown up UN workers, UNRWA workers, UN workers in general, UN schools that are also used as shelters. They've also blown up the Associated Press building, the building that the Associated Press was inside of, claiming that it was Hamas. And they did it right in front of our eyes. So it's not like they're going to fucking stop themselves when they put forward a new target like this. It's terrifying. Legitimately fucking terrifying. And now, while we're having this conversation, they are, while we are having this conversation, they've cut off all comms and all information out of Gaza. Now, the problem is, yeah, I streamed during the AP bombing. We watched it happen in real time. Yes. Shelter to whom? Hamas, maybe? Yeah, I mean, I can't tell if you're like saying that as a joke or if you're being serious. Ultimately, though, yeah, Washington Post reporters cannot reach their colleagues in Gaza. Palestinian Red Crescent Society says it has lost contact with its medical teams. Shutting off comms. Okay. Wait, what the fuck? Why did that? Shutting off comms doesn't just like stop with us not knowing what the fuck is going on in the world. Okay, when you shut off comms internally inside of Gaza, now hospital workers can't communicate with one another. Ambulance services cannot go to the areas of need. How do I respond to my coworker saying Israel is not performing genocide because the Palestinian population has doubled since 2005? Disgusting tech guide to listen to today. Yes, people in horrifying conditions actually have higher birth rates. It's ridiculous to claim. People think, okay, here's one thing I want to explain here. Okay, doing a genocide is not as easy as people think it is. It's not just like you turn on the fucking genocide switch and then people die. It's not that easy to kill people. Okay, that's why when hundreds of thousands of people die in one fucking act like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, okay, that's a devastating circumstance. That's like a uniquely evil moment in history. Okay. Other than that, it's not very easy to just like slaughter and butcher people, okay? Because guess what? People inside of a fucking concentration camp still end up having children, okay? People still try to survive. They adapt to those gruesome conditions. So having your population increase while you are under horrifying circumstances does not change the reality that there is a butchering happening, okay? It's like, it's very, very silly to assume that it happens like overnight. The Holocaust is a great example of this as well. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen like, oh yeah, boom, clicked on the Holocaust button. It was an extensive period of continuously increasing the slaughter that occurred over the course of a decade almost. It doesn't happen overnight, and people don't understand that. If the murder rate is lower than the birth rate, then murder is okay. Exactly. Surely there would be some noticeable shift in the age of the population that would highlight the fact that genocide is still occurring despite an increase in population. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there's like any indication. Like, for example, I don't know. Maybe the fact that the life expectancy in the Gaza Strip, literally like a couple miles off of this made up artificial boundary, is 10 years younger, okay, than the life expectancy in Israel proper. How did that work? How did that happen? They literally live right there. That is the greatest indication, okay? Life expectancy being 10 years younger in the Gaza Strip than Israel proper, when they are literally right on top of one another, have the fucking same diet, or supposedly are supposed to have the same diet. There's no difference between the life expectancy of North Dakota and South Dakota, okay? And the proximity between North Dakota and South Dakota, especially along the border, is even larger than the proximity between fucking Gaza and Tel Aviv, okay? It's 50 miles. This is straight up genocide denial rhetoric, okay? That's what it is. The Gaza skyline stream just shut down. Wait, really? Oh, fuck. Literally just now? Oh, no. Okay, well, that's not good. I think that people don't understand that if they continue doing this, and you see polling numbers like this, for example, percentage of people who agree or disagree that Canada should support Israel against Hamas by political party. 31% disagree on the liberal side. 46% agree that we should help Israel. On the conservatives, 44% agree that we should help Israel. And then the rest of it is 53% disagree. New Democrats, 54% disagree. Bloc Québécois, 60% disagree. And these guys are not exactly fans of Muslims in general. Like, think about that. Even the fucking Bloc Québécois is like, come on, dog. What the fuck are you doing? Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's spokesman reject calls for a ceasefire and says we will no longer live with this reality and that the war is not being fought to deter Hamas, but that instead we have decided that Hamas must be gone. Bloc is literally isolationist, but not out of the question because they may see themselves as colonized despite being French. Yeah, I know. That's why. I know. Anyway, so you are watching an ethnic cleansing campaign be conducted in 4K pretty much, or they're just fake. Yeah, dude, they're just fake, brother. How can you explain to me how you think those numbers are fake, but you also simultaneously hear Israeli officials say we're fighting human animals and we're going to be indiscriminately bombing. Israeli officials go on television to say, I don't understand why people have any kind of empathy for Palestinians when they're all animals. That happened like 2 days ago on Sky TV. Or when the Israeli government itself literally posts photos flexing that they dropped 6,000 bombs on an area that is smaller than fucking Rhode Island, okay? Like, they are saying these numbers aren't fake. It is ridiculous to say, how does that prove the numbers are real? How can you live with yourself? You are literally a Nazi at that point. You are engaging in ethnic cleansing denial as the ethnic cleansing is happening. But it's not surprising. Many Western dogs had this same fucking perspective when the Nazis were ethnically cleansing Jews during the Holocaust. They wrote about it and said, that's unbelievable. I mean, I know the Nazis are cruel, but they can't go that fucking hard. I mean, come on now. That's precisely what many in the Western world, in Western media said. Not only has the Gaza health officials released all of the information of all of the 7,000 that have died, okay? Not only have they released this information, time and time again, every single third-party verification group, every single NGO like the Human Rights Watch, B'Tselem, Amnesty International, and more importantly, the American State Department has utilized the Hamas-backed Gaza Health Ministry's numbers because there has never been a moment where the Gaza Health Ministry's numbers have been inconsistent. That's the issue, okay? That's why everybody uses the Gaza Health Ministry's numbers until Israel decided that they're fake. The only way that, and UN, it confirms these numbers as well. The only way that you can just get away with this kind of genocide denial and not be called exactly what you are, a fascist piece of shit, is because the dehumanization campaign was so incredibly successful that you do not see even the fucking doctors on the ground, some of which are Western doctors, by the way. Not every single doctor is a Arab dog in your mind, okay? Doesn't even fucking matter, of course. That you perceive every single person to be working in this monolithic fashion against Israel to engage in a mass coordinated effort to lie. That's your fucking idiotic perspective. And it's no different, in my opinion, than the way that fucking COVID deniers operated during COVID. But you are a fancy liberal and you like reading and you think clearly about these sorts of things, of course. So you're different than the fucking uneducated, unwashed masses that believed COVID was fake, right? You think you're better than those guys. You're not better than those guys. The only difference is mainstream media feeds you this fucking narrative and then usually will clarify that it's completely incorrect, but you know, the people in positions of power will read these fucking narratives out loud, and it justifies your own internal biases, so you just go along with it. Do you understand? The phone call from a journalist stationed at the Gaza hospital. He's able to make this call because of data roaming on a Turkish SIM card. Translation: we're in the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. We have no idea what's happening. There's no connection, no Wi-Fi, no reporters. We're cut off from everything. People can't call ambulances or civil defense. We are being bombed in an unprecedented manner. The sky around us just lights up with explosions, and no one knows what's going on. You can't reach anyone, even if they're 500 meters away only. Ambulances and medics are begging reporters to let them know which streets are getting bombarded to go rescue the victims, but the reporters themselves don't know where anything is happening. Because of the connection loss, we are trying to report the news, but we have no idea what's happening. That's what happens when you engage in mass media blackouts, okay? And that is by design. They are doing this on purpose. What's the point of you stream? The point of my stream, for those of you who are still oblivious at this point, is to show you a perspective of the dehumanized, to show you the perspective of people that are worthy of being heard out, okay? A people that fucking do not get heard at all. A group of individuals that are currently being ruthlessly and mercilessly ethnically cleansed. That is my goal. That is my job. That is what I try to do to the best of my ability, even in times like this. One of the few times the State Department has questioned the Gaza numbers is because they thought the number was too low. Fourth paragraph. Yeah. The State Department in the United States has always used the Gaza numbers as correct. These numbers have also been tested time and time again by Human Rights Watch, for example. And those numbers have been considered to be correct. They've always been considered to be accurate. So accurate that the U.S. State Department uses it. So accurate that the UN uses it. Okay? Everyone, including the United States of America, considers the Gaza death toll to be reliable. Could there be inaccuracies? Especially when like active bombing campaigns are happening, when there's no electricity, when there's no internet, when everything is patchy, of course. But the assumption that we should take what the Gazan health ministry is saying with a grain of salt because they're Hamas backed is fucking ridiculous. Is completely ridiculous. It's genocide denial. That's exactly what it is. And history will write about it as such. Here's Ofer Kassif saying, in Israel, they are considering giving up a prisoner deal in favor of promoting the maneuver and estimate that the briefings by Hamas and Qatar on progress in the deal are intended to delay the operation. Yeah, this is like, they're saying Hamas is using the hostage swap as a mechanism to delay the operation that we want to conduct.
From the top of my building, I can see the flashes of the explosions, either from the artillery or from the airstrikes, but limited Navy shells in the western part of Gaza City and of the north.
I'm running the 3-minute ad break now.
Safwat, so when the Israeli military spokesman said just a few hours ago that he came up and spoke for the second time, in fact, said that they are expanding their ground operations. And now you seem to be reporting that there are some limited operations using tanks in the northern part of Gaza. Has there been any response from Al-Qassam brigades or anyone from Hamas to the comments that were made by the Israeli spokesman?
We could see rockets that were fired from Gaza into southern Israel, and even those with long range fired into Tel Aviv and the central area of Israel. Still, the fighting groups are still able to mobilize and work based on plans that they set in advance before the operations or the attack they carried out in October 7th. This is an indication that the Israelis are not hitting, as they said, or claim the infrastructure of the fighting groups, since they are able to fire freely or whenever they want a long and short range of rockets towards Israel, and still the whole infrastructure which is underground, the tunnel network underground, are still able to prevent the Israelis from carrying out the ground operation. This means that the fighting groups are, or the infrastructure of the fighting groups are still strong, and that they can maneuver or can move and carry out their attacks whenever they want and the way they want.
Safwat, while I have you with us, just update us on the situation with the telecommunications lines, because we understand that people are disconnected from each other, and certainly they seem to be disconnected from the outside world.
Well, this point touched everybody in the Gaza Strip, because more than 1.5 million of the population of Gaza have been moved from south to north and from north to south to seeking a shelter or seeking a safer place. So in the last 3 hours, people are unable to communicate or to stay in touch with their relatives, their parents, or their sons, especially after every explosion, as they are used to doing during the 3 weeks of Israeli war. Now there is fear. I think even our colleague Tariq, who is now staying 20 kilometers from his family, I believe, as a father, he is very much worried. I have been receiving also calls from people who are living in Europe or abroad, and their families are staying in Gaza, and could stay in touch with them and to make sure that they are still alive. And now people say we are still alive. Nobody says we are fine or we are good. So there is fear that this is a preparation for something bigger, but there is nobody knows what is this operation, or the big operation, or what is this bigger thing that's coming up. So the coming hours are important here for the Palestinians in Gaza to understand what the Israelis are preparing. From our experience, two options: either ground operation will start soon, or there is the negotiations that started for the prisoner swap we will see the results in the coming hours. So these are the two options that we understood from our past experience.
Okay, Safwat, we'll let you go for now. We thank you so much. That's Safwat Al-Kahlout reporting for us from Gaza. We are going to take you live to the United Nations. Look at this live picture right there. So the UN General Assembly is due to vote on a resolution, and this resolution calls for a humanitarian truce in Gaza, which would
They can't even say ceasefire, so now they're calling it a humanitarian pause.
Israel and Hamas. So what we understand is going to happen is that there's going to be a first vote, in fact, on an amendment that Canada and the U.S. had wanted to add the word, quote, Hamas to the...
For the record, the reason why...
So once the voting begins, we will cross back to the United Nations.
The reason why they want to add Hamas... The reason why they want to add Hamas... And Israel wants to add Hamas, but other nations don't, is because the victims overwhelmingly are not Hamas. The victims overwhelmingly are Palestinian civilians. This distinction must be made by the Western world to actively aid and abet in the ethnic cleansing campaign that Israel is currently engaging in. Okay? You got the condemnations for Hamas, so now you can say, oh, well, we're fighting Hamas. That's why all of the media covers this as not an Israel versus Palestinian affair, not as ethnic cleansing happening to Palestinians under an apartheid regime, which, by the way, both of those factors they regularly recognize under different circumstances, but that this is Israel versus Hamas. It is not Israel versus Hamas. It is simply a justification for their ethnic cleansing campaign. That's it. 3,000 children have been slaughtered by Israel since October 7th. Those kids are not Hamas, okay?
Without a fundamental change, the people of Gaza will face an unprecedented avalanche of human suffering. Everyone must assume their responsibilities. This is a moment of truth. History will judge us.
Well, we heard from the head of the government media office in Gaza, who spoke earlier at Shifa Hospital, and he strongly denied Israel's accusations that Hamas is using the hospital as a shield for its tunnels.
The hospital compound is home to more than 60,000 displaced persons, thousands of victims, injured, and patients, and thousands of medical crews, in addition to the relatives of the victims, along with the representatives of dozens of international media outlets. All this proves that the false allegation raised by the Israeli occupation forces are fabricated. They are targeting the medical facility that is providing
make no mistake, do I believe that there are tunnels under the Shifa Hospital? Sure. I mean, there's tunnels under everything in Gaza, okay? Do I think that that is ample justification for bombing that hospital? Abso-fucking-lutely not, okay? Abso-fucking-lutely not. That is insane. And also, the tunnel structure is not as, like, in the way that they describe it, right? This is, they're claiming that the Hamas headquarters is under the Shifa Hospital is just a rumor, okay? Is just a fucking rumor that they're going along with. And it can be a very deadly rumor, knowing what we know about how Israel operates.
The Assembly is called to order. The General Assembly will resume its consideration of Agenda Item 5, entitled Illegal Israeli Actions in Occupied East Jerusalem.
I'm a Canadian Israeli citizen. I volunteered for Doctors Without Borders in 2014 for 60 days in Gaza. The doctor that I worked with was confirmed in one of the Israeli bombings. I'm going to cry for the rest of the day. Thank you for doing your work. Sorry for your loss, my friend.
On Agenda Item